Hello, thank you for joining me today. Well, today it is Tuesday. It's November the 24th. I hope your Tuesday is going well, and hopefully getting a good start to the week because it should be a short week for everybody. And then, of course, Thanksgiving Day, and a lot of people be off the day after, and just a time to reflect upon the things of God, to be thankful, of course, and enjoy great meals and enjoy it with the people that we love. And of course, that's what we need, and certainly a year that warrants us to be not just so we can bring some satisfaction, I suppose, to ourselves, but truly to be thankful too, and we certainly can do that. But we decided last week, I decided that I'm going to bring two devotions upon the subject of justice and judgment, and we did that yesterday. We're going to do it today, and then maybe afterwards we may bring this up again. We're going to see how things go, but certainly this is in line with what's going on in our country. And so I'm not going to review what we talked about yesterday, but all to say the title, of course, was what does it mean to wrest judgment, W-R-E-S-T. Basically means to pervert justice, to not do justice. When it's in your power to do justice and you just won't do it, you push away from it, you look the other way. I think that's what's been going on in our country for the last 4 years. To the President of the United States, I believe that, and if you want to throw stones, if you want to make comments about it, you're certainly welcome to do that. This is not meant to be inflammatory or anything like that. It's not meant to, bring up that kind of discussion. I'm just telling you what I think. As someone that I think is about as impartial as anybody, I really believe I am. Maybe sometimes you'd be blinded by that, but I think so. I think looking at things that's gone on, I think some obvious evidence that's out there. I think there were some things that were not brought to justice. I think there were some illegal things, unlawful things, treasonous things that were not done on a very high level against the President of the United States, and these were not prosecuted. There were no indictments that I know of, and certainly there's been no imprisonment of people who did some things that I think indeed are unlawful and have caused great problems in this country. Now, we talked about a little bit about that yesterday. Today we're going to talk about swift justice. So today we're going to be in Ezra chapter 7. We're going to look at verses 25 through 28, and then we're going to go over to the book of Ecclesiastes and look at least one verse there, maybe a couple there. But notice what it says here. It says, "And thou, Ezra, after the wisdom of thy God that is in thine hand, set magistrates and judges." Now that's the civil government, just like we understand, "which may judge all the people that are beyond the river, all such as know the laws of thy God, and teach ye them that know them not." This is about the rebuilding of Jerusalem and going back, the rebuilding of the temple. Ezra and Nehemiah were the principal parties in that as far as leaders go. And this is what's being said, that Ezra needs to establish this in the land. "And whosoever will not do the law of thy God and the law of the king, let judgment be executed speedily upon him, whether it be unto death or to banishment or to confiscation of goods or to imprisonment." So we're going to stop right there. This is the king basically saying, look, when you get over there, Ezra, you set up the system of laws and all of that, and make sure that justice is executed speedily. There's a reason for that, and make sure that's done. And this is in the interest of God, not just in the interest of the king. It's in the interest of any civilization, any civilized group of people. Certainly, we're talking about the United States of America. We're a country built on laws. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, you understand the influence of the Bible, the biblical laws, all of that. But we certainly have civil laws. We have a constitution and everything that goes down from that. We have law enforcement, and we have a court system that if law enforcement brings parties to them that have been arrested and been accused, and then they're to be tried to see whether they're innocent or guilty. But certainly justice is supposed to be met. And if there's guilt, then those sentences are supposed to be given, and then whatever the sentence is, then it needs to be done swiftly and done rightly. And oftentimes it's imprisonment. We understand that, different things. But all that to say, that's very, very important to God, and it was important that God said that to be established. Now notice here from Solomon's perspective, of course, through the Holy Spirit, here's some things he observed, and here's something that was stated here in the Scriptures. Ecclesiastes chapter 8. We're just going to look at verse number 11 here. He says, "Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily." Now, that certainly lines up with what was told to Ezra. "Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, Therefore, the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. So we'll cut to the chase, as they say here. Now we're looking at a process in which we've had an election. And we're just going to focus on the presidential part. There is no clear winner. Fraud has been brought up as being a reason for what seemingly is the winner, Vice President Biden, against our present president, President Trump. Do I believe there has been fraud involved? I do. I believe there's been enough said. I think there's been enough said that it would be hard to make up some of the things that's being said. Now, some say, well, I don't think there's any fraud. It's easy to say. That's easy for me to say there is. But all that to say, I do believe there's enough that's being brought up by the parties that are bringing what they believe is evidence as to fraud in the election. And I believe enough evidence from what they're saying, enough to overturn the results in which the President Trump would remain as our president. Now, here's the thing. If we have mountains and mountains and mountains of evidence, and I think there is evidence, I think there's going to be more evidence that's going to be stated. Here's the problem, though. If these are brought to the next party who's supposed to deal with this, our court system, our system of justice, if they look at this and skirt it, to use the Bible term, they wrest it, they push away from it, they decide we're not going to entertain this, we're not going to hear this, then that means they're pushing back. And to have a clear decision one way or the other to say we're not even going to hear it, then I think that's pushing back, and it's saying that we're not going to entertain justice here. And I think what's happened is, if there was fraud involved, and I think there was, then the people that said 4 years ago who orchestrated these things, then as we've come along 4 years later, the people that say, well, nothing was done then, I doubt anything will be done now. The problem is that means if justice was supposed to be served and it's not, that's evil. But I'll tell you this, God does know, and it's important to God. It's important to God for justice to be served, just like justice was served on Calvary for the sins of all mankind, for all evil, for all sinners, and we're all that way. For all the things you think are really evil, like murder and injustice and all of that, I get that. But it's all sin. It's all sin. The sin of unbelief, to not trust Christ as Savior, to push back and say, well, God's plan is not important to me, or I'll figure out my own way of equaling justice with God. Well, justice was done on Calvary against the innocent party, Jesus, and the guilty need to come and say, I accept God's terms, which is salvation through Jesus Christ. I'm the guilty party, you're the innocent party, and you can declare me guilty or innocent. Now, we're already declared guilty in the sight of a holy God, but we can be declared innocent and no charges laid against us. We can be considered righteous in the sight of God because justice was served. Now, we're living in a country where I think it's a problem. I know there's people that say, well, sometimes you bring up messages about how we're supposed to honor the king or respect authority, and we are. That doesn't negate that. But it also doesn't negate the fact that there are people set up, like our police system, the magistrate system, the court system, a Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, things that are meant to deal with crimes and all of that. That's their position. That's what they're supposed to do. And judgment is supposed to be made against the guilty, and there's an opportunity to find out if there's guilt or not. But when someone says we're just not going to look at it, we're just going to turn the other way, especially if they know there's guilt involved and they do nothing about it. Well, that's a problem in any society. It's a problem in our society. We're going to see how this plays out, but we need to pray for justice to be done. And I wanted to say something about this because sometimes someone like myself can make some statements about how we need to be patient, we need to pursue peace, and we need to be peacemakers, as if to say, well, we're just not doing anything. Well, we are doing something. We're going to leave it in God's hands. And we're going to pray that the people that God has placed in position to do the things they're supposed to do, to execute judgment swiftly, that they will do that. And whatever that is, that we'll accept that. But we certainly don't want a perverting of justice. We don't want to be looking the other way and saying, well, there's nothing going to be done about it, therefore the consequences that should be right are just not going to be dealt with. Well, we need to pray. We need to pray that God is going to help us with this situation. So we'll start tomorrow with our theme of thanks and Thanksgiving as far as our videos go, and but I don't think this is in any way going to hurt Thanksgiving at all. We want justice to be served, and the people that came to this country, they wanted justice. And when you're in the position where you're accused of something, you're going to want justice too. Indeed, if you're innocent, and we need justice done in our country. So hope you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow, and thank you for watching our videos.